Dear learners, today we would be discussing the concept and definition of self-help groups. Before starting with the whole concept and what are the different definitions and summarizing the whole session, I would like to bring to your notice that during this pandemic and the COVID-19 crisis, the self-help groups have made their presence felt and have tried hard enough to cope with the trying times. It's very much visible. We know that there are so many issues coming up, economic issues, the financial issues, the mental issues. Certain kinds of issues are coming up during this crisis, and when the lockdown started in India, the World Bank report in mid of April stated that around 20,000 self-help groups have helped in 27 states of the country. They have helped the people in combating the COVID-19 crisis. So you understand the importance of self-help groups. So that is why we would be discussing how the self-help groups they evolved, and what is the rationale behind the self-help groups, what is the need for the self-help groups, and what are the different kinds of definitions given by different people and different experts in the field about self-help groups. So from now onwards, we would be referring self-help groups as SHGs or SHG. So every time I would be using the acronym SHG in this session. So starting with the first part, we need to discuss the evolution of SHG, how it evolved. If we go back to the history of our Indian culture, you will find that a concept of community living has always existed since ages. You must have witnessed that even today in small villages, you will find that there is a kind of community help developed across. It may not be formalized, but that community help does exist. It may be in the form of community kitchens, it may be in the form of providing services to the household existing in that particular locality. So this concept has always been there, but it was not there in the organized form. So when we talk about the evolution of SHG, it's almost 4 decades old, though in the formalized or in the organized sector, and it actually evolved as a movement by the people of the community. Mainly it involves the women members, and it is related to the empowerment of the women, and through this the women empowerment concept evolved in an organized form. So it led to women empowerment, and women felt that they have, apart from looking after the house or managing the house, they do have a life outside, and they can feel empowered because they can lead by examples. So this is the evolution part. Now coming to the other part is like how it evolved. Now if we go back to 1970s, there was a concept called microfinance which evolved in Bangladesh, and it's a neighboring country of ours, and this concept actually evolved in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has been pioneer in microfinance. Basically it started with the weavers and the workers in the community of Bangladesh, and Professor Muhammad Yunus, who started a project called Grameen Bank, that led to the evolution of SHG. This project actually started in 1973, but the formal recognition took place almost after 10 years of struggle for getting the Grameen Bank recognized. It seems that Grameen Bank still exists in the microfinance part, but the formal recognition of of Grameen Bank as a full-fledged bank, just like other centralized or nationalized or the private banks, is still a question mark. But it exists and it is functioning formally, and it is providing resources to the members of the community of a specific class. So, this is the background that it started with the microfinance in Bangladesh. But when this model was replicated in India, the concept of Grameen Bank existed, and if we just go back and have a glance at the concept of Grameen Bank, it basically deals with providing loans to the poor who are landless, and especially women. And in most of the cases you would find that women manage things better. So, it promotes self-employment, and the features of microfinance institutions, specifically Grameen Bank, you can just bifurcate it into 4 points, where you will have the target group, where the target group is mainly women of that particular community. The women come together and it has a group approach. Savings is the precondition. That is a very important aspect which we will discuss in the concept part of SHG. So, savings is a precondition in the Grameen Bank. That means if you are given 2 rupees, you need to save 1 rupee. So, that saving leads, and that savings is collected by the officials, and they have the weekly meetings, and that saving is used in form of dispersing the loans. So, this is the concept of Grameen Bank. Now, if we just see how the normal banks function, they also function in certain in this kind. But then in that case, the community where, or women who are not well off financially, they cannot put in the savings, or they cannot have the savings in the normal banks, because there are certain restrictions or certain government policies where they have to have minimum amount of savings to open the account. So, in this case Grameen Bank was started basically to provide the loans and inculcate the savings habit in between the women who, and of course inculcate the habit of self-employment. Now, if we see the history of SHG in India, this particular model of Grameen Bank was adopted in a modified form, and they created the, instead of forming a Grameen Bank, cooperatives were built in and credit management groups were built in, and SHG took place. The formation of SHG took place. So, banks are the main agency, they actually linked the SHG to the main banks. So, banks are the main agency to deliver the microcredit, no doubt, but then these groups formulate or function in such a manner that they deal with the banks. So, again when we go back in the 70s, a lady named Miss Elaben Bhatt, she is the founder member of Seva Group, which is known as Self-Employed Women's Association, and this group dealt with employing women in their own sense. It developed their skills like making clothes, making household items like pickles, like crisp potato crispies or potato chips, etc. So, it was founded by Elaben Bhatt, and then this movement, this Seva movement took place, and it was in form of SHGs. So, she developed a concept of women and microfinance specifically in Ahmedabad. It is a town in Gujarat. So, many others like them, they followed similar paths like Annapurna Mahila Mandal which exists in Maharashtra, then there is a Working Women's Forum, etc. So, Seva was the first association which gave the concept of self-help group, where the women came together and they started working for themselves. So, this is the concept of self-help. This is the history how it started. So, moving further, we need to understand why do we require SHG. As I gave you an example in the initial timing of the session about the combating crisis of COVID-19, where the SHGs, the women made masks and distributed to the community. Now, that is where a point arises, why do we need SHGs? First need arises because of the lack of access for credit and finances to the poor. So, poor do not have access to the credit and finances, and as we know, and you must have witnessed, that we have a large population of migrant workers. So, in that case, they do not have that much finances through which they can take credit or they can have loans to start their small scale businesses or own a land and sow the crops, etc. So, this kind of situation arises. So, there was a Rangarajan committee which gave a report, and it highlighted 4 major reasons which are as follows, and these reasons gave the need for SHG. First one is the inability to give collateral security. That means the poor, they do not have anything with them through which they can ask for the loan, and in lieu of the loan they can keep some of the property or jewelry or some of any kind of collateral security to get the loan. Other part is weak credit absorption capacity. That means if they take the loan, they are not able to repay that loan. So, that is another aspect. Then another part is the insufficient reach of institutions. That means they are not able to reach the banks, the access is not there for them, they are not even aware. Most of them, they are not even literate enough to understand the concept of loan. And of course, the weak community network. So, these were the 4 points which made people realize, the workers, the community workers, the NGO groups, the government realize the need for forming self-help groups. So, that is the basis why the self-help groups, they came into existence, and especially in a country like India, where the major population is of the migrant workers and the poor, so in that and the farmers. So, self-help groups, they do play an important role in understanding in helping and understanding the societal issues. Now, coming to another aspect, the concept. This is the basic part. What exactly are SHGs? So, we have discussed many issues about SHGs. We will just discuss in brief the concept of SHGs. Self-help groups, these are kind of informal associations of people who come together to find ways to improve their living conditions. So, it can exist in any part of the society. So, you would find, if you go to the villages or small towns, you will find such kind of informal associations existing in number of ways. They can be informal associations like say 10 women of the same community with the same class coming together, and they are forming a kind of a group, and they are dealing, suppose in the present crisis they are making masks and providing to the community, or they are making some kind of food which is being provided, community kitchen type of thing which I was discussing earlier, and providing food to them, to the community, or food to the ones who do need it. So, I will give you an example that langars are a very good form of SHGs, though in that women have a role to play, but basically that is also an example of SHG. So, they are generally self-governed and peer controlled. That means people come together, they have the self-discipline, they are controlled by each other. If one person is going out of the way, the other tries to bring her back to the same path. So, it is self-governed and peer controlled. People of similar economic and social backgrounds, they associate generally with the help of any NGO or government agencies, and they try to resolve their issues and improve their living conditions. Now, if you go across a country, you would find such cases in number of in different forms. It can be in the form of textile workers who are working or making clothes, providing the clothes to the boutiques, that can be one form. They are working for creating awareness amongst people, and they are working for say education of children or the girl child. So, they can be various forms of SHG, and they always associate with any of the formal organizations like the NGOs existing in that particular area, and of course, the government involved in that particular area. Coming to the stages of SHG and what are the self-promoting agencies regarding the SHGs. Now, if we come to the stages, if we discuss the stages of SHGs, we will find that there are 3 different stages of SHGs. The first is the formation of group, the second is funding or getting the capital, the third one is the development of required skills to boost the income generation for the group. Now, the first part, we will discuss the first part, that is the formation of the group. Now, formation of group has to be between the like-minded people, otherwise it becomes very difficult to bring together the cohesiveness amongst the group. So, the group has to have the similar aim, similar goal amongst the people who are forming the group. Then another part is where to get the capital from, where to get the funding from. So, formation of capital is another stage of SHG, and the third stage is developing the required skills to boost the income generation. As I gave you the example of weavers weaving say good cloth and making dresses out of it or saris out of it, and then taking it for selling. So, this is a kind of an income generation for the group. So, these can be how these stages can be formed or how these stages can be achieved. So, for that we require self-promoting agencies, and under the self-promoting agencies we have non-governmental organizations, we have the government involved, we have the state and the commercial banks existing in that particular area. We do have microfinance institutions existing in that area. In case of microfinance institution, I will give you an example. Usually you would find that in villages the loans are being disbursed by the people in unorganized form, and these are where the people it is between 2 people or more than 2 people, but it is not between the groups. So, therefore, the microfinance institutions do provide the loans for the group. Then you have federations of SHGs. You have leaders and entrepreneurs who have already made their name in that particular area, and they can be contacted for promoting the formation of the SHG. Now, these are the different stages of SHG. Now, coming to another aspect of the concept, the SHG is usually a small voluntary association of poor people. So, as I said, when in Bangladesh the movement started, it was for the poor and the landless. That was the criteria. In SHG, we just associate with the poor people or the people who do not have enough money for their betterment or for their living. So, it is where poor people come together voluntarily, they are not forced to form the group. They are being made aware about the group, and then the people, they come together, and usually they are from the same socio-economic background. This is one of the main feature where people need to have the voluntary association, that is very important, poor or from the lower economic background, and they have a similar kind of a socio-economic background. They come together for the purpose of solving their common problems through self-help and mutual help. Now, if you go to Maharashtra, you would find many farming families, the ladies, they have come, the women, they have come together to store the crops so that they do not spoil, to help the family in the yearly or the annual storage of crops. So, they come together for the self-help, and of course, they help each other mutually. SHG promotes small savings amongst its members. Now, I gave you an example of selling the clothes. Now, clothes in the form of bags, in form of dresses, in form of pouches, in form of dress material, in form of bed sheets, anything. Now, if they sell something, then in that case the members are told, or the members are motivated to save some amount from the selling, from the income they generate. So, that is very, very important. Savings is one of the most important form of SHG. And the savings, then that savings is not to be kept at home. This saving compulsorily has to go to the bank. The common fund is in the name of the SHG. So, everybody, it is not in the name of individual. So, it is not individual saving, it is a community saving. So, it goes in the common fund, and the name of the common fund is the name of the group. So, this is what SHG is. Again, another aspect is, usually the maximum number of members in one SHG is 20. It cannot exceed 20, because the more the number, the more the complications arise. So, the members, they are expected. Now, again the regulation says that they need to meet, because if it is a formal SHG, they need to meet regularly on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. And there, how to meet, how to conduct the meetings weekly or fortnightly? The person who conducts the meetings and prepares the proceedings and enables appropriate decisions for the action is chosen by rotation amongst the group itself. Somebody who is literate enough, somebody who is exposed enough, somebody who knows about the dealings in the society, that person is selected, and that person conducts the meetings and prepares the proceedings. The SHG members, they save whatever amount they can save. It is not compulsory that, as I gave you an example, it is not necessary that they save 50% or 60% or 70%. They can even save 1%, 2% or 10%, whatever amount they can save every month, and they have to agree to it mutually to contribute to a common fund, to be lent to the members for meeting their productive emergent credit needs. Now, suppose somebody needs money for seed, loan for seed. So, the money can be taken out from the common fund and given to the person for buying the seeds for sowing the crop in the season. So, this is important. So, they have to agree to a common saving amount, which per month, it can be more, it can be less. It depends on the income generated by the SHG. The SHGs are linked to the banks and they disperse microcredit to the members and facilitate their empowerment and development. Usually the maximum amount of loan reaches from 50,000 to 1 lakh. 50,000 is the ceiling usually, because it is necessary that they need to repay it back. So it can be 1 lakh also in certain cases, if they are performing very well. So it can be increased to 1 lakh. So they are linked to the banks, unlike the special bank like Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. So in the SHG, they are directly linked with the banks, the central banks or the nationalized banks, and they disperse the small amounts of credits to the members to facilitate their empowerment and development. Besides focusing on entrepreneurial development of the beneficiaries or the members of the group, the SHG undertake the responsibility of delivering non-credit services also. Now the social cause also comes into picture. So they do the non-credit services also, like literacy, like education, like health, like the environmental issues. So they come up with creating awareness about education, awareness about health, awareness about environment issues. Regarding health, recently we have seen that many SHGs, they have come together to create the awareness about the hygiene benefits to combat the COVID-19 crisis. So they have been going door to door to people, making them aware about cleaning the hands, about cleaning the house, about cleaning the clothes, maintaining a proper hygiene, wearing masks. So these kind of issues have been dealt with. So SHG have been really working actively, proactively to deal with the social causes like education, health and environment. Now coming to the definitions of SHG. There are number of definitions which has been provided by SHGs, and we will just discuss these definitions one by one and see how they have defined SHG and what are the common characters. So SHG is a small, economically homogeneous and affinity based. Affinity based means people are like minded, they have an affinity towards each other. Affinity based group of people who have decided to save and contribute to a common fund to be lent to its members as per the group's decision. Here the group's decision matters the most. It is an organization which is formed to enhance the status of members as participants, decision makers, beneficiaries, and have a democratic, economic, social and cultural spheres of life. Now this was given by Guru Murthy in 2000, this definition researched across the self-help groups, and that was given. Now coming to another definition which is considered to be the most popular definition, and it was given by National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development, that is NABARD, and it was given in 1995, and it describes SHG as a homogeneous group. Homogeneous means same, people are same, from the similar background. They are not different, they are not diverse, they are not varied. So it is a homogeneous group of rural poor, voluntarily governed to save whatever amount they can conveniently save out of their earnings and mutually agree to contribute to a common fund to be lent to the members. Another definition was given by Pradhan in 2000, and they defined SHG as an informal association of 10 to 20 rural poor, socio-economically homogeneous with a background of affinity who meet regularly to transact the business of saving and credit. It mobilizes the savings from individual members and extends the credit from the funds so mobilized to empower the rural poor, especially the women. Mysore Resettlement and Development Agency, MERADA, in 1995 gave the definition of SHG as the appropriate people's institution which provides the poor with the space and supports them necessary to take effective steps towards greater control of their lives in private and in society. And it is not a static institution, it is dynamic in nature and it grows on resources and management skills of its members and their increasing confidence. Now this is one of the best definition which describes the concept of SHG as a whole. Krishnamurti defined SHG as an organization formed by the people for pooling their resources to help each other. Now, if we sum up the whole idea, we have discussed the evolution of SHG, the need of SHG, the concept of SHG and various definitions of SHG. And to summarize the whole concept, we can say that SHG is a group of homogeneous people coming together for the betterment of their own needs, their living and self-employment and generating economic upliftment. Thank you so much.